Welcome back to the Suit and Scrubs podcast, where business meets bedside. I'm Dan Haggerty, the guy in the suit, joined by three of the best home health PTs out there, Brendan Kirby, Lisa Thompson, and Dan Catuccio. Before we dive in, check out careandmotion.co for tools, tips, and products for anyone in home health. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen to us. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell so you never miss an episode. All right, let's dive in. I'm especially excited to share this episode because it hits close to home for me. As the suit, I see the business side of things every day, staffing, retention, turnover. But this week, Brendan and Lisa had the chance to dig into it from the clinical side with two incredible guests, Zee and Juhi, therapists turned researchers who recently completed a study that's about to be published in Home Healthcare Management and Practice. The title? Beyond the Visit, What Makes the Home Health Clinician Stick and Tick. It's all about the real reasons clinicians stay or leave in our industry. And it's packed with insights we all need to hear. We'll link the study once it's live, but for now, lean in, listen up, and let us know what makes you tick.
We're excited for our two guests here. We got Juhi and Zee, and they conducted a study that I would love to share, and I think it's going to be very interesting and informative for all our guests to hear about this study. And I think, Lisa, explain a little bit how they originally came about. They reached out to you, is that correct?
Yeah, Zee reached out to me asking if I can help poll the home health audience for a survey. And I said, I'm all for kind of gathering data and information that can help home health clinicians. So we did that. What did you think about?
I think it was in April,
8 months
sometime in
ago?
April, yeah.
Was it in
Yeah, it's been a
April?
while. Yeah.
I was like, it's been a while. And then, they got quite a bit of responses. And then Zee reached out a couple weeks ago and said, hey, we actually got some really good results and we'd love to share them. So y'all want to introduce yourselves and kind of just tell us about who you are and, where you're practicing, all that good stuff.
Sure. Yeah, thank you guys for having us, and thank you, Lisa, for posting that survey study online. We actually got a lot more responses because of that story, which I'll brief you guys up on a little, when I'm discussing the study a little more. So yeah, my name is Zishan. You can call me Zee. I've been a physical therapist for the last 10 years, and I've worked in different settings, outpatient, skilled nursing, and now currently I'm back to working in home health.
Perfect.
And my name is Juhi, and I've been a speech therapist for over 11 years now. And again, have had the opportunity to work in a lot of different settings, including home health for 4 years. I currently work in a split position between inpatient and outpatient in a hospital system, but I do get to still support our home health agency, SLPs. Thank you for having us here today.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you guys. We were actually, Juhi and I were talking a little bit before about how speech therapists have it a little bit harder, I think, in home health with maintaining a caseload and having a bigger territory. So I think, but it's always a good time in a home health.
Yeah.
So please let us know about what you guys did and how everything went, and share as much as possible. And I'm sure Lisa and I are very inquisitive with a lot of questions. What's going on here? So
we are really excited to share our study too. So yeah, I'm just going to give a little bit of a background. So Juhi and I used to work together in home health, at my previous home health gig a few years ago. And we used to wonder why there's so much turnover in staff all the time, why there are not many clinicians that stick around. There's always lack of staff at most of the home health agencies. So we always had that at the back of our mind. And recently when we reconnected, we thought of doing a study about that just to get more of an insight on why this was happening. So we created this survey, which has 5 major components of home health, which is scheduling, traveling, environment, which is patient environment, documentation, and job satisfaction. We wanted to keep it simple. We don't want to keep it too elaborate. We didn't want to do it too elaborate. And we asked the clinicians to rate these 5 components out of 1 to 5, 1 being very dissatisfied, 5 being very satisfied. And we circulated this survey to different newsletters, ranging from APTA to ASHA, Occupational Therapy Association. And yeah, Lisa posted it on her stories, which actually got us a lot of views, which is thank you so much, Lisa. We ended up getting 372 results in the end. And we actually did three studies out of the main study, like three different analysis. And one of the analysis that we did right now was just between therapists. And like Julie can talk a little bit more about the key points.
Yeah, so from the 372 responses that we got, we did like one of the main studies where we talked about how each of these components correlate with the job satisfaction. And that one is still under review. And so another one that we did, we extracted the responses from PT, OT, and SLPs. And that's where we wanted to see, like, are there any similarities between the three disciplines and then what their differences are? So the big thing that we saw was there were clear similarities in three components. People rated scheduling pretty highly. Environment was somewhere in between, but all three disciplines were similar ratings in that. And then the documentation, again, all three disciplines were similar ratings, but it was more towards the lower satisfaction side, which is not really a surprise when it comes to documentation, right? And then the difference that we saw between the three disciplines was traveling. So, like Lisa and I talked about a little bit, traveling is the one component that differs so much between the three disciplines, where PTs rated it on the positive side versus the OTs and the speech therapists rated it on the negative side. And then another one that was rated on the statistically significant difference was for job satisfaction. And this one was a little bit of a surprise there, where speech therapists rated it to be highly positive setting to work in, followed by PT versus OTs reported more dissatisfaction. And so then what we did was we went into like each component and then kind of tried to find more data related to that and see why the ratings could be the way they were, right? So Zee, you want to talk a little bit about the documentation one?
Yeah. And also like just to touch upon the same traveling. So OTs rated traveling to be like the most dissatisfied and even job satisfaction. So OTs show that they were the least satisfied in home health. And again, one of the reasons why we think it must be because only 8% of the OTs that work in the US do home health. So there's less OT staff, and that might be the reason why they are least satisfied. And like just touching up a little bit more about documentation, we also did another study where we deep dived into documentation. So one of the questions in our survey was the mode of documentation that the clinicians use. So we connected that mode of documentation and correlated with the documentation satisfaction scores. And we found that cell phones, clinicians that use cell phones are most satisfied, followed by laptops and tablets. So, and again, like rightly so, that we are so used to using cell phones, like it's convenient, it's easy to carry. You can call your patients on the same phone, you can document on the same. It's easy to use applications and AI on the cell phone. So I think that might be the reason why like documentation like scores were higher for cell phone users. And I think this is something that the Suits part of the podcast needs to pay more attention and maybe give the management side needs to like look into this and maybe provide cell phones more. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I'm wondering what kind of documentation system they're using on a cell phone. Like, have you?
So I actually do it, Lisa. I do it now.
What
we have
system do you use?
we use Epic, and we have a Rover app that actually it's dual functioning. I can do it on a laptop or I can do it on the app itself, and there's a lot of functionality with it where my phone, I can use it as a hotspot to use my computer, or I can just actually type a decent amount of my document in there. And I mean, it definitely it's easier, it's less distracting. You can definitely, you don't have to worry about your laptop, quote unquote. Your laptop can stay in your bag and be a backup if you need it, but otherwise you can kind of just go through and bang out the main categories. I think the biggest thing that you might have to finish up is probably your assessment at the end of it, right? I mean, it's a little bit harder to type the assessment, but you can type in your exercises, your vital signs, your subjective, most of the stuff there. So I mean, it definitely saves time, definitely makes it more efficient. And I think Zee, like you said, with AI, I think it's going towards this where it's trying to help, speed up some processes and things that we're using here. And, I'm curious what the next couple of years looks like, because I know a lot of companies, not just in our health industry, right, are looking towards to go towards AI. But we currently right now today I use my phone normally when I first walk in. That's how I get signatures for my patients and everything as well. And it just saves a lot of time, and I can just kind of keep rolling. And we talk about efficiency. Our buddy Dan is all about getting in and out and being in there, and
Great.
yeah. So
I guess for
Yeah.
me, like I've only ever used a tablet, right? And an Android tablet. So it's fairly small, which I think is nice, and I can type pretty decently on it. I can hook up a keyboard versus I've recently got a bigger tablet with a bigger keyboard that's more almost like a laptop, and I hate that because it's huge. But it is nice when I'm finishing my notes at home. I can set it up kind of like a laptop. But then I have my mobile outpatient. I use my phone through like a web browser, and like the system's not the greatest. So I'm like, I usually don't type that much and I just finish at home. But I've always really liked the laptop, and I don't need a hotspot because it just does. My company provides data, so I don't have to hook up to anything, and it's through, home care home base, which I don't think you could do home care home base on a phone. It would be, maybe you could. I
I
don't
think you
know.
can. I know, like my company also does it through a tablet, but I know some companies they use home care home base and they use a phone for that. So because it's an
Yeah.
app, so
And
it's
when
easy
we
to.
Right. And when we used to work in the home health, or when I did, we had these huge, bulky laptops. You
Yeah.
remember those, Z?
Yeah, I would
Oh,
hate
wow.
those.
Those were heavy to carry. And then, like Brendan said, first you have to see if the home is, clean enough. And should I be taking my laptop in there? And if you're not taking in there, then you either remember or you sit and write, and it just added so much work.
Yeah.
and then where are you putting it? How are you holding it as you're going through your session? Like there's so many different factors that play into it. And I know when we first got the laptops and also the phone, it was just like, hey, my one clinician was like, yeah, I try to guard my patient as I'm holding my laptop. I'm like, what? Like, why are you doing that? I'm like, no, but
That seems
sometimes,
safe.
yeah, I mean, sometimes we don't have the best judgment, but I would say, that's where I think the cell phone becomes a lot handier in this case. So,
Yeah. That's like you mentioned about using AI in documentation. I don't know if you guys have heard something called as the Oasis Talk. So like there are some apps that use AI like ambient listening. When you're talking to the patient and asking Oasis questions, it automatically detects that and starts rating the Oasis scores while you're treating the patient. So you don't have to separately go and check, but of course you have to review it in the end. But that is something that I know some companies are doing that, and hopefully that gets better, and hopefully we can use that, and eventually that can help people be more satisfied with documentation, which I think directly correlates to more people coming in home health, I think, because
Yeah,
majority of the time.
AI is definitely coming for home health. It's already in a lot of companies. I know like Roger is a big one. And I think the people that use Kinzer use that a lot with companies. I know Home Care Home Base, I believe, has finally like signed whoever they're going to use for their AI documentation system. I know it popped up on one of the agencies that I contract with used a AI with Home Care Home Base, but it's only for nursing right now. So I think they're starting to roll that out, which is going to be huge for Home Care Home Base users. And then like I was working with AutoMind, and they do everything for the visit, right? It can document your entire start of care visit while just listening. So that's definitely, I think, would correlate more with patient satisfaction, or not patient satisfaction, clinician satisfaction, decreasing your documentation workload.
so
And
my
I think the same
question.
would be for
Okay.
scheduling too, with AI and scheduling. If they can help you prioritize and make a list for you, and you just have to text or call, or if AI can even do that for you, I think that would be so much helpful. That was one of the things I struggled with because I was the only speech
Yeah.
pathologist for a while, and often there was a turnover rate, and I'd had to cover Virginia, West Virginia, and then they would load like 30 some patients, and I had to sit and prioritize.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's a lot of work to do.
and I think the other thing with that though is think about it. If it's AI automated, right? If it's a computer calling and reminding you, hey, Lisa, you have an appointment at 9 o'clock tomorrow. It kind of takes out the emotional side of the therapist, where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, like you don't like being up early. It's just like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what's happening, which in theory should make you more efficient because you can plan the quickest, most convenient route as you're going throughout your day. But
Yeah.
I'd be curious how it kind of plays out in the future here with
When you
what's.
have like the plumber, you get the like automatic text or the cable guy or something like your
8 to 4,
clinician
8 to
will be there
12.
between like 10 to 2, and you'll get a
Yeah.
30-minute text when they're like driving on their way with a GPS reminder, right? Or you click I'm on my way and it automates that text message to the person. The only thing is what are you doing when somebody doesn't have texting, right? So, and I think as we get older and our patients get younger and more tech savvy in a sense, that will solve a lot of those problems where a lot of people don't have home phones. I can text 90% of my patients.
Yeah. And I think a lot AI is also, I think there are a lot of studies going on where they do route optimization. So all your patients, if you lay out, it will tell you where to go first and where to end, just to maximize your mileage and stuff too. And I don't know, I don't see that a lot in our documentation apps right now, but I think that hopefully that comes up too. That might be helpful.
But are they going to automate my Starbucks stop in the middle of my day? I don't know.
Or Target, yeah,
We'll see.
They could if you know the address. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, or your bathroom. Like find me the clean bathroom.
Because
Hook up with that one app there.
So Z, speaking to that, my two applications that I most recently used, you could plot everything, but the problem that you ran into, you could also plot personal appointments, like you had a doctor's appointment or things like that. The issue you ran into was the fact of when you're going through it, there was a limit to the number of visits that you could have. So it's like, hey, so if you have a busier, so like I think that's where you have to start thinking. Like some days might be busier than others, and so I don't think there's a perfect science to it yet, but I think we're getting there. I know the one question I definitely have for you guys was, what was the most surprising thing from your study for each of you? Like what really surprised you when you took a step back and you're like, I didn't really see that one coming, or I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, I can go first. So I think environment. So I think in environment we had put down like patient environment, right? That because that's our workplace. And most of the clinicians, even like the nurses in our other study, they rated environment to be the highest. They were highly satisfied. And given that we go through like some very terrible environments in home health, right? Which that I think was surprising to me. Like everybody rated highly on it. I mean, maybe they were just
Also, that isolation
about
piece with the environment.
maybe autonomy is what they must be thinking about, maybe.
Yeah. Or like we're happy to be treating or seeing a patient in their home environment. Like that's how I would see it as a PT, right? We can do so much in the patient's home and in their environment, and usually, your goals are so specific, right? Oh, you want to be able to go get the mail from the mailbox, or we need to be able to get in and out of the tub shower, go up and down the stairs. We can practice that with what you have to do, right? Versus trying to simulate it in a clinic. And like, we do go into some homes that are not ideal, but that's usually not the main part of your caseload, right? I would say, or at least for me, it's not.
Well, it's more of an exception than like the majority, right? Like, I would say like, you have those one-offs, those two-offs that are like, okay. But I think for me, environment is just like, think of the other settings that we can work in. We can work in a hospital setting, we can work in outpatient clinic. But like sometimes I know for me, the biggest thing is like just being able to get out of that same environment again, right? I get to or I get to go outside with the patient, or I get to go to a new house, and it's like, hey, like this is my nice house, or this is, you know what I mean? Like everybody knows their houses and that type of stuff. So, I think at the end of the day,
And I think
think
that is
that's why.
definitely one component. Right. And
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one component that I miss about home health, the functional aspect of it, but also just getting out, because I'm in an outpatient clinic and there is no window in there. So sometimes I'm like, I'm tired of sitting in here.
Yeah, and it's the same environment every single day, right? Versus I don't do the same day twice ever. Right. Ever. Like my day is different every single day.
Which to some people is scary, but I think for most home health clinicians, that's why they do like it. You know what I mean? And I think the other side of that is too. I mean, the way I look at it is like I'm sorry for you, right? Because if you unfortunately have that really tough patient that day, and now like it might just deter you the rest of the day, and it's not because you're doing it intentional, but you're human. You know what I mean? We're all human, and we have to make sure we take care of ourselves. And sometimes I know Lisa Dan's talked about it, right? Like stop at a park for a minute or two, you find take a little walk around the park or find somewhere to stop and eat your lunch and look at the
Yeah.
wilderness and like things like that because it really
And
makes a huge difference in your day and kind of clears your head and it's like, all right, let's reset. Let's start over with the patient. And
yeah.
an outpatient or in hospital, I guess you can kind of do it, but it's not as easy because
Yeah,
because
like
of your
where are you
schedule.
going?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Are
It's
you
not
putting
that
that in
easy.
your
And then
productivity?
yeah, because your schedule, like Lisa said, it's back to back to back,
Hmm.
particularly
Yeah.
with outpatient. With acute care, you still get like a little wiggle room in between, but with outpatient, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the surprise was SLPs having rated the job satisfaction to be more favorable compared to PT and OT. Because, like we talked about, like SLPs do have it a little harder with the larger areas, more time in the car. But I think, well, one, we only send it to home health clinicians. So the ones that are still working in home health, they're working there for a reason. So that could
Right.
be why it was rated a little bit more favorably. But then the other is the same things we talked about, that functionality, that ability to get a break in between patients, to de stress, or to like schedule your appointment in between. Um, I think SLPs value that highly too.
Yeah.
What do you think about what you guys just said, though? What about the fact that it's, you know, I mean, Lisa, you spoke to it, and I mean, it's like we expect or know that if you're getting into home health as a speech therapist, you're not as densely populated as a physical therapist or an occupational therapist. You know that your caseload might be a little bit more like the standard or the expectations already there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I
Right.
think sometimes PT, OT and I guess I'm thinking more OT. Like if you're a little bit low, they might ask you to stretch out your territory a little bit, and that could cause dissatisfaction or something. I
Yeah.
think PT, we luck out. A lot of people refer to us,
Mm-hmm.
so we normally are pretty densely populated and don't have to stretch too much unless there's vacation coverage or some exception happening. But I think just those known standards, I think are definitely beneficial too. And it's like kind of seen as like, hey, this is what a speech therapist is going to be doing. You either
Right.
accept it or you don't, at that point in time.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think PT
That's a
and
good
OT are more
point.
like PT and OT might be a little bit more rigid where it's like, I'm not going there because, you want me to, so I think speech therapist is like, oh, I'm expected to drive this far. Like I know already,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about it that way. Makes sense though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And y'all keep
I
your
think
caseload usually, I think, right? So like you might be able to build like I mean, I know for me, like I see people once a month. So like I'm kind of all over the place, but I think speech therapists, y'all are like you pick a patient, you're seeing that patient through their entire care.
Yeah.
So
There's no SLP
yeah,
assistant as yeah.
right.
There
And
is,
I
but
think
there are
that
not many.
mhm.
right. And so that's definitely one of the advantages of home health, that rapport building. And also, when they come to outpatient, like you said, you're simulating a lot of things, but also you're just taking your patient's word, right? Hey, you're supposed to be on nectar thick liquids. Are you doing that at home? Versus when you go home, there's not much lying there. You can tell based on the
Right.
kids that are sitting there. And so there's nothing wrong in it. It just makes it easy for us to meet the patient at the level they are
Yeah.
and like work on strategies.
Yes.
So, what are your guys' next steps from this study? Is there a follow-up study that you plan on doing, or what are you planning to do with this current study? Is there more to this now, or where are you with everything?
So I think yeah, in this study, I think we did more of a quantitative review. We want to try to do something more qualitative, so we get a better idea of why this is happening, why traveling is slow. We still haven't like worked the statistics, like we haven't like worked towards that, but that is one thing that we are thinking of working towards eventually. Uh, but yeah, I think this data, like just getting like a data and just getting an idea, just give us an insight on like which component is like worse in which discipline. So I think that just give us an overview of everything. But I think yeah, diving in a little deep.
And I think, one of the things that we really want to highlight through this study at the moment is that every discipline does have their unique positives and unique challenges. And so, as an employee and as a home health agency, that we really need to focus on not just having these huge overarching incentives like, oh, if you meet so much productivity, you'll get this bonus, versus really digging into, well, yeah, speech pathologists have different requirements versus PTs have different burdens. Kind of like what Brendan said, like for PTs and OTs, they tend to be a little bit more rigid. Well, then if you do want them to cover or you do want them to stay and like their PTO get denied, what incentive are you offering, right? Versus like even with speech, when I was told, well, you don't have to meet this number of points, I never was able to go over it. So even if I worked 50 some hours, I would still be stuck at 20 points, but got no incentive.
Right.
And so, like, I'm working my ass off and not getting anything
Yeah.
for it.
And that's why you're probably not doing it anymore right now.
But
Exactly. And I
it's
think one of the points you talked about in one of the seasons, Lisa, is you as an employee have to go advocate for yourself. And I think that did
Yeah.
stick with me because back then I had just graduated. I had
Mhm.
1 year experience. And so while I did go ask, I don't think I was really like a big advocate for myself, which eventually led to the burnout.
Yeah.
But I think it also goes to kind of some of the things that you guys saw in your study, right? It's finding a good fit for you, right? Just because we all work in home health or have worked in home health, it's not for everybody, and that's a fair statement to say. But I
Very.
think I think there is definitely a time or situation or place for everybody that could benefit from it. And that's where, depending on company to company, depending on organization to organization, different structures are going to change everything. And I think, those are other components that you guys could look at, right? What is a smaller mom and pop organization, right, compared to one of the largest, home health, companies look like? How does that satisfaction compare, and things along that nature? But for me, it's all very fascinating because I look at my peers and some of the things that you guys said, and the speech therapist, I know the occupational, and it's like I can see that, I can kind of see you guys saying that, so it's all good stuff.
I think that's a really valid point about different companies and different things because home health is so variable. Each company has their different things that they focus on, their different productivity, their different incentives, their different teams, right? And knowing like if you go into home health and why some of these podcasts are so important, so you know what else is out there, right? Because if you're just going the first time, you don't know. You're like, is this really how it is? Like I have people DMing me about like, oh, this is all of these things I have to see. Like someone just messaged me the other day, like I have to see 6 points. I can't go under. I can't, or if I go over, that's great, but I have to see 6 points Monday through Friday for 30 points total. I try and do 7 on Monday and Tuesday, and then if I do 5 on Wednesday, I'm getting a call from the office saying, why am I under? And I'm like, well, why would you, like, why would you see more? Which is like, it's not this way everywhere, right? Like you're trying to meet your productivity. That's the beauty of home health is you can have some of that flexibility. Like, hey, I'm going to add another patient to my day because I have an appointment the next day, right? I'm going to work a little bit longer today. But if you don't know, you're stuck and you're like, oh, home health is the worst setting, right? So
Yeah, you're right.
knowing these
There's a lot
things.
of unknowns in home health. Like I
Mm-hmm.
teach that to a lot of like students and like a lot of new clinicians, and they don't know any better. Like they are not exposed to home health so soon. I think even like in DPT courses, not they don't get clinical rotations in home health as much. I think now they're trying to change that, but
I
it's
think
not.
so, yeah.
But they are not doing that. So they don't know. They don't know anything about home health. And I think like yeah, your page like Home Health Chronicles and even like podcasts like this, like these things help build a community and like help advocate towards these things. And also just like I think sometimes home health can be a lonely field.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Sometimes when you're out,
Yeah.
you're not meeting your colleagues as much. There are not many weekly meetings and stuff. So yeah, like I think these podcasts like this and yeah, your page, and that's what I was telling Juhi that I know previously when I was working in home health in the same company, I used to cover 6 counties. I was a floater PT.
Wow.
Terrible job. I hated my job at that. I liked home health. I got a taste of it. I hated it. And then I went to outpatient. I loved outpatient. I was there for 4 years. And then this time when I came back, I came across your page, Lisa, and
Mm-hmm.
I think I got to know so much more about home health just like through just scrolling, right? And I think
Yeah.
this time I advocated for myself. I got myself a better area. better job, and I
Yes.
love it again.
Can we
Yeah,
just do a
it's great.
side tangent? Why did you take that first one? What made you take the first floater position?
So
I'm really curious. That's
So you
all.
don't know.
I didn't know. So initially, I was told that I will be floating around,
Yeah.
but eventually I will get my own area. And I'm like, okay, fine. I just wanted to learn how to do home health. So like I went in and I liked that the training and all was amazing. Like I got to know, I learned home health there. I would say like the first 2, 3 months precepting was excellent. But then when I started going by myself, it was like I was going to one county and then going to the other county the next day. It was terrible. So I
Yeah.
left
But I
with
think
the
they
morale.
also told you that they would give you a notice, right? Because you're supposed to
Yeah,
be somebody that covered like PTO. So I feel like because we worked together, they told you they would let you know in advance, but then that was not happening
that
either.
was not
You get to
happening.
know a
Yeah.
day before.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And
I was new as a newer PT at that time. And I'm like, yeah, fine, I'll do it.
Right. And I
yeah,
think that's what like we're trying to build with Care
help
in
the
Motion, right? To
community.
be this community and this resource for clinicians so they're not alone, right? You know what else is out there. You have a community. Um,
Not saying the
really.
pastures are always greener, but like at the end of the day,
Right.
that there are other options, right? And like so, firstly, I just want to congratulate you and say I'm proud of you for stepping away from that because, well, here's the thing: if that was your first job, right? I mean, I think about my first job, and was torn. I was an outpatient. I was torn about my decision about whether I wanted to leave or not. It was my dream job, quote unquote, or I was finally a physical therapist. I'm like, yes, I made it, and then I'm like, but I'm going to home health, like. I've never, and like you said, I never had a home health clinical rotation. I never didn't know what to expect. I had a former, actually, one of my former clinical instructors encouraged me to do it. I started doing a little PRN on the side. and like, let me get my feet wet and see what happens. But I learned as I went. And you know what? I fell in love with it. It worked with my schedule. Pay was better, things. But then even doing this now and been being 8, 9 years into it, I'm still learning things. I'm still finding
Yeah.
better. I mean, I recently made a change from one company to another, and with that being said, I definitely think for me it was a change for the better. And it might be a little bit more circumstantial. I was single before, but now I have a family, and things can change for you, but that's the variability, but that's the beauty of home health. And I think people have to truly understand that you can probably find the right company, the right situation, position for you, but you have to be willing to look, to ask, and know what to ask and who to ask. And I think,
Hmm.
like you said, Lisa, that's what we're trying to bring awareness about, to have that satisfaction, to have that control and everything else. So, but well,
Any last thoughts about anything that y'all have learned or want to say about home health as we wrap up?
No, I think home health is a great field. I think you get your flexibility, you get to treat the patients in their functional environment, you get to make the real change, I feel. So I think it's a great field, but I think you need some rules before you get into home health. That's what I feel.
Oh yeah, I think
Right.
so too.
And I think that's the thing. Once you know what to ask for, like honestly, at this point, now I
Mhm.
have a 1 year old, and sometimes this not having the flexibility with this hospital system sometimes
Yeah.
gets a little bit stressful
See,
because you have
you're
to manage
starting to think, I
appointments,
think.
right? You're starting to manage appointments and whatnot. But like knowing there are so many different models out there, and now to know what to
Mhm.
ask for, you never
Yes.
know. I might step back into home health at some
there you
point.
go.
Is
Well,
it
I
now you talked about the study. Now, is it being published? Is there some place that we can read it or link it to on the Care in Motion website?
Yeah, sure. That would be great. So yeah, it's getting published in Home Health Care Management and Practice, a journal. It's by Sage Publication. And I think it's going to come out. We were hoping that it would come out by now, but I think it will be end of this month or hopefully start of next month. And the title of the study is Beyond the Visit: What Makes a Home Health Clinician Stick and Tick.
Perfect.
So yeah,
Yeah, and I
well,
think
we'll
as
send
soon
it the
as it's
link.
published, we'll send you the link too.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Awesome.
definitely include it attached to this podcast, but then also we can add it to our one of our links on our website, caremotion.co. so that others can take a look at it. And I mean, I know I can speak for myself. I've enjoyed our episode today. I appreciate your
Yes.
guys' time and
Thank
your
you.
knowledge. And please, if there's future studies or other things you take this further, let Lisa know, let myself know, and then, we'd love to have you guys back to see, because I really find this fascinating. And I mean, even
Mhm.
myself, I'm like, what if you guys did this again in another couple of years? Do you think the results would be the same? Do you think, you know what I mean? So it's definitely
Right.
gets the wheels turning, but I think it's important for us to have studies like this so that we can gain an understanding. And I mean, it helps not just us as clinicians, but like you guys said, helps the suits or the higher level, because you need to have that connection. And I think, like we talked about in Care in Motion, having an understanding for your back office, for your C level suites, suits, as Dan likes to say, and those people, it's a very challenging thing to cross, but studies like yours are definitely a benefit. And thank you for your time and your efforts. We appreciate that.
Well, a big thanks again to Brendan and Lisa for taking the reins on this episode. If you want to dive deeper or check out the study once it's published, head over to careinmotion.co, where you'll find helpful resources, clinician-approved products, and all the latest from the Care in Motion community. And as always, we want to hear from you. What makes you stick and tick?